Good morning, friends. Myself, Manoj Kumar Chitade, Assistant Professor, Hira Sugar Institute of Technology, Anand Soci. In this session, we people are going to discuss about a controlled access. In a controlled access, the stations consult one another to find which station has a right to send. A station cannot send unless it has been authorized by other stations. Here we people are going to discuss three controlled access protocol. One is a reservation, a polling, and the third one is a token passing. In a reservation, if a station has some data to send, on that case the station should and must make a reservation first. Here the time is divided into interval, and in each interval the reservation frame precedes a data frame that is sent in that interval. Suppose if you have a n number of nodes in a system, the reservation frame carries n mini slots, and each of these slots are reserved for these stations. If a station has a data to send, first these stations should and must make a reservation in their own mini slots. In this scenario, station 1 in the first interval, station 1, station 3 and station 4 has already made have already made their reservation, and this reservation frame precedes by the data. The station 1 sends its data, after that station 2 sends its data, the next one station 4 sends its data here. In the next interval, only station 1, that is a node 1, have made its reservation. It precedes the data from the station 1, okay, and so on. The next one we have a polling. This polling mechanism works where one station acts as a primary and a remaining station acts as a secondary station. The data exchange must made through the primary device, even when the ultimate destination is a secondary device. Here the primary station controls the link here. The secondary stations simply follow the instructions. It is up to the primary device to determine which device is allowed to use that channel here. Here this primary station always acts as a initiator that initiates the session here, okay. Here we people are using two methods. One is a select and the second one is a poll. We people are using this select method whenever the primary station has a data to send here. The primary station has a control over this link. It knows the availability of a link here. Here the primary node first send a select a message to the secondary station. Maybe the station, maybe the primary station has a control over it. It can send the data over it, but it should and must make sure that the destination, that is a secondary station, is ready to receive the data here. For that purpose, it sends a select frame here. For this request message, the secondary station sends the acknowledgement. Once a primary station receives the acknowledgement, it came to know that the secondary station is ready to receive the data. Now the primary station sends the actual data over the link here. For that data, the secondary station sends the acknowledgement. In the second method, that is a polling, we people are using this polling mechanism is used by the primary station just to solicit the transmission from the secondary devices. When the primary node is or a primary station is ready to receive the data, then it should and must ask these secondary station, do you have any data to send? For that purpose, we people are using this poll mechanism. In this case, the figure shows the primary station or node first poll it to node A. That this polling mechanism should and must be carried out in such a manner that is we can say that turn wise. Okay, the primary station first sends this poll frame or request message to one particular station, and after that it sends the poll message to another station. Okay, that is, we people are polling in turns. In this particular example, the primary station first sends a poll message to the secondary station A here. If A has a certain data to send, it sends the actual content, that is a positive response. Otherwise, it sends the negative acknowledgement. Here, station A, that is a secondary node or a station, sends the negative acknowledgement. Now the primary station sends the same poll message or request message to station B here. The station B has a data to send. The station B sends the actual data over a channel to this primary station. Once a primary station receives that content, it sends the acknowledgement here. The next one, we have a token passing. In a token passing method, the stations in a network are organized in a ring here. That is either it may be a logical ring or it may be a physical ring. We have a current node that has a access to channel to send its information. Once a communication is over, the current node transfers that right to access the channel to the successor node. Here we have a current node. For example, in the above figure, for example, the figure A that shows a physical ring, we have a station 1, station 2, station 3 and station 4. Okay, they have already formed a ring topology here. Node 1 is a current node that is sending some sort of information. That is, it has access to send the information over this channel. The node receives that control from the predecessor node. That is, a current node has a predecessor node and has a successor node. The current node receives the right to access from a predecessor node, and it forwards that right to access the channel to the successor. Okay, here we people are using one special frame called token. In the sense, when a node has a token, it accesses the data, a channel to send its data here, and it forwards or it sends that token to the next node when it completes its transmission. The node receives that token from the predecessor node and forwards that token to the successor node. If a node has a token, then it has a right to access the channel to send its data over it. Once a transmission is over, once the station has no data to send, the station sends that token to the successor. Here in this particular topology, we need a token management, so that in certain cases the station holds the token for a longer period of a time, or in some cases a node that is transmitting the data, if it fails, on that case the token will disappear. We need this token management in certain cases where we people need to assign certain priorities to the stations and the type of a data that has been exchanged here. For a certain nodes we can assign a high priority, and for a certain nodes we can assign some sort of a lower priority. The lower priority station should and must release the token to the high priority stations here, or nodes, we can say that. If you look at this physical ring, we people are facing a problem. Whenever a link failure occurs, on that case the topology becomes the dead one, in the sense the communication doesn't takes place here. On that case, just to overcome that problem, we people are using this a dual ring. Here, whenever a link failure occurs, this auxiliary link creates a temporary connection, okay, so that we can overcome that particular problem. Here, when it comes to this physical ring, the station need not necessarily know the address of a next station. Here we have a physical connectivity between the current node and a successor, as well as for current node and the predecessor node. Okay, whenever a node sends a token, the next node receives it. Okay, not necessary that we should and must include the next node address in the token only, or a frame here. Here we people are using this dual ring topology just to overcome that problem. Whenever a link failure occurs, this the auxiliary link will create a temporary connection here, so that the communication takes place properly. The next one, we have a bus ring here. The stations are connected to this cable here, okay, by using taps and drop lines. Here we people are establishing some sort of the logical connectivity. Station 1 is logically connected to station 2. Station 2 is logically connected to station 3. Station 3 is logically connected to station 4, and station 4 is logically connected to node 1 here. Here in this particular topology, when node 1 has a token, it has a right to access the channel here. When the communication is over, node 1 should and must release the token here, and we need to send that token to the successor node. And here we have created the logical ring here, but when it comes to this underlying architecture, the nodes are using this bus topology here, and whenever a current node sends or transfers that token to the successor node, it should and must explicitly attach the destination address to the packet here. Once the node receives that token, the the successor node accesses the channel and starts sending its data over the link here. The fourth one, we have this star topology. In a star topology, we have a central controller hub that acts as a connector, okay, and the wiring inside the hub that makes the ring here. The stations are connected to ring through the two wire connections. That is a less prone to failure, we can say, because when a link goes down, it will bypass by the hub here, and the rest of a station can operate. Another advantage here is we can easily remove as well as attach new nodes to the topology very easily. The next one, we have a channelization. A channelization is a multiple access method in which the available bandwidth of a link is shared in time, frequency, or through code between different stations here. In this category, we people are going to discuss three protocols or three methods, we can say. First one is a frequency division multiple access. The second one is a time division multiple access. The third one is a code division multiple access. In a frequency division multiple access, the available bandwidth is divided into frequency bands, and each station is allocated a band to send its data. In other words, we can say that each band is reserved for a specific station here, and it belongs to the station all the time. And these bands, that frequency bands, are separated by small guard bands here, so that we can overcome this interference. If you look at this FDMA, that determines frequency fan for the entire period of a communication here. A stream of data can be sent by using this FDMA here, and here we need to look at the FDMA and the FDM. When it comes to this frequency division multiple access and frequency division multiplexing, that frequency division multiplexing takes place at the physical layer, that combines low bandwidth channels and transmits them by using a high bandwidth channel. That is, we have a data from a low bandwidth channel, and we need to combine them and we need to transmit them by using a high bandwidth channel. We people are using the modulation technique, combines a number of signals, and we create a band pass signals here. Okay, here the bandwidth of each channel is shifted by the multiplexer. When it comes to the FDMA, it is a access method that takes place at the data link layer. The data link layer instruct the physical layer to make a band pass signal at the given or allocated band only. We people are not at all using the physical multiplexer at the physical layer at this particular stage. The signals are whatever the signals we people are creating, they are automatically band pass filtered one. In a FDMA, the available bandwidth of a common channel is divided into bands that are separated by some sort of a guard bands here. The next one we have the TDMA, that is a time division multiple access. In TDMA, we share the bandwidth, that is nothing but these stations share the bandwidth of the channel in time. Each station is allocated a time slot during which it can send its data, and each station transmits its data in its assigned slot only. The main problem we people are facing here, that is a synchronization between the different stations. The station should and must know the beginning of their time slots and the location, that is the location of its slots here. Maybe we people are facing certain problems when it comes to the propagation delays that are introduced in the system whenever these stations are far away from each other. Okay, just to compensate this delay, we people insert these guard bands here. Okay, just the guard bands here. Most of the time this synchronization can be achieved by sending these synchronization bits, we can say, or sometime we also call it as a preamble bits. As we discussed in the previous case, that is FDMA is completely different from the FDM, that is a frequency division multiplexing. Even in this case, the time division multiple access is completely different from the time division multiplexing here. That TDMA is a physical layer technique that combines the data from a slower channel and transmit them using a faster channel here. And we people are using the interleaving process here when it comes to the TDM, that is a time division multiplexing. On the other hand, when it comes to a TDMA, it is the access method that takes place at a data link layer, and the data link layer tells the physical layer to use the allocated time slot only. Okay, there is no physical multiplexer we people are using at the physical layer here. Here in TDMA, the bandwidth is just one channel, that is a time shared between different stations. The next one we have the CDMA, that is a code division multiple access. We people are using this particular approach several decades ago. Okay, if you go through the analogy, we people are able to understand what concept we people are using in case of a CDMA. Here CDMA method, one channel carries all transmissions simultaneously. Consider a simple analogy at this particular point. Consider there are people in a room. Suppose if the people are talking to some of their friends, if all the people use a common words, that is for a common language, for example English, the receiver or another fellow may not able to understand or extract what he is telling or what he is saying. Let's go through another analogy. We have two people. They communicate in a Tamil language. No other people understand it. We have another two people. They can communicate with each other by using Kannada. The remaining people don't understand Kannada. If these two stations send the data simultaneously, on that case, the fellow who know Kannada easily extract the Kannada word from it. That is, he hear those Kannada terms properly. And the fellow who knows Tamil, he hears the Tamil words very clearly. We people are using this particular approach when it comes to code division multiple access. Here we people assign these codes for each and every node, and they have a certain properties. These codes have a certain properties. Consider this particular scenario. Here we have a station 1, station 2, station 3 and station 4 here, and we people assign these codes C1, C2, C3 and C4. When it comes to the properties of these codes, suppose if we multiply this code by itself, suppose if we multiply this code by itself, on that case we will get a 0 as an answer. If we multiply this particular code, if we multiply this particular code with itself, on that case we will get a value as a n, where n is a number of stations in a given topology. If you multiply this particular code with another code, on that case we will get a 0 as a solution. Okay, by looking these two properties of these codes, we people are trying to know how this particular mechanism works. Here we have a data, that is the station 1 has a D1 data to send, node 2 has a D2 data, node 3 has a D3 data, node 4 has a D4 data. Here D1 is multiplied with this code, that is a C1. It becomes a D1 into a C1. In the same fashion, the data from node 2 is multiplied with its code, that is a node 2's code, that is a C2. D4 is multiplied with a C4, and D3 is multiplied with a C3 here. And the data that is present over this link is nothing but a D1 into C1 plus D2 into C2 plus D3 into C3 plus D4 into C4. Suppose a D1 is communicating with a D4. On that case, the D4 multiplies this data by the code of a node 1 here, so that it can extract the data that is sent by the station 1 here. For example, if you look at this particular scenario here, here we have the same scenario. The one station that is going to receive, that is for example D4. The D1, we have this particular data, that is a D1 into C1 plus D2 into C2 plus D3 into C3 plus D4 into C4. That information is available over the channel, because all the data is transmitted simultaneously over the channel here. Now the node D4 is willing to receive the data here, that is node 1 is sending the data to node 4 and node 4 is trying to receive it. Here node 4 multiplies that content by the node 1's code here, that is a C1. On that case, we people will receive D1 into C1 into C1, D2 into C2 into C1 D3 into C3 into C1, D4 into C4 into C1 here. Okay, by the definition, the C1 into C1 that returns the n here. These codes, that is a multiplication of these two different code words returns a 0 here. That is a D2 into 0, D3 into 0, D4 into 0 here. Now the D1 is multiplied. D1 is nothing but a D1 into n. Suppose if we divide this term by a number of nodes, on that case the node D4 extract the term, that is a data that is sent by the first node, that is a D1 here. Here we people are using these codes. We call them as a chips here. Okay, that is completely based on a coding theory. Each station is assigned a code here, that is a sequence of numbers. We simply call them as a chips here. If you look at the properties of these chipping sequences, here these chipping sequences is made up of n elements, where n is the number of elements. In the previous example, we have 4 stations here. Okay, and this chipping sequence should and must consist of 4 elements here. The second rule says that if you multiply this particular code by a scalar, for example this C1 is multiplied by 2, on that case we will receive the chipping sequence element as a plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. The third the property of this chipping sequence, suppose if we multiply a chipping sequence by itself, that is a inner product of a chipping sequence here. Okay, on that case we will receive a n here, that is the number of nodes that are a part of your network. Suppose if I multiply this particular term by itself, 1 is multiplied by this particular 1, the next, that is the second one, is multiplied by this particular term, the third one is multiplied by this third term, and the fourth term is multiplied by the fourth term here. And if you add all these terms, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, on that case we people will get 4 here. The fourth property is, if you multiply two different chipping sequence, on that case we will get 0 as a result. Okay, that is, for example, the C1 is multiplied by C2 here, this 1 is multiplied by 1, we people will get a result as a 1. The second term of a C1 chip, that is the second element of a C1 chip, is multiplied with the second element of a C2, 1 into minus 1 minus 1, 1 is multiplied with the third term, 1 into plus 1 plus 1, the fourth term is multiplied with the last term here, that is a minus 1. Here we people will get 1 minus 1 plus 1 minus 1. If you add all these terms, we will get a 0. Okay, the fifth one, suppose if I add these two chipping sequences, okay, we need to add this corresponding elements here, that is first element is added with a first element of another chipping sequence. The first term is added with the first term, the second term is added with the second term, the third term is added with the third term, and the fourth term is added with the fourth term here. Okay, here suppose if I add these two chipping sequence, the plus 1 I am getting 2 here, plus 1 minus 1, the second term is a 0, The third term is added with a third term, I am getting a 2. The fourth term is added with a fourth term, here I am getting a 0. On that case, here we people are getting, that is the result is plus 2 0 plus 2 0. When it comes to the data representation, here bit 0 is represented by -1, bit 1 is represented by 1, and the silence is represented by a 0 here. Suppose in this particular case, the station 1 is sending bit 0, station 2 is sending a bit 0, station 3 is a silent, station 4 is sending a bit 1 here, and here these stations have already assigned these chipping codes, that is 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. When it comes to C2, plus 1 minus 1 plus 1 minus 1. The chipping sequence for a node 3, that is a plus 1 minus 1 minus 1. When it comes to node 4, the chipping sequence for it, that is a plus 1 minus 1 minus 1 plus 1. Here the station 1 is sending a bit 0. Okay, here all the nodes transmit the data here, and that is carried over this channel or link simultaneously. But the node to which this particular node is communicating, that extract the data from this term. For example, here the station 1 is communicating with the station 4 here. Okay, the bit 0 is represented by -1 here. This -1 is multiplied by chipping sequence. This is a scalar value here. On that case, the D1 into C1, what we people are getting here, 1 is multiplied with this chipping sequence here. 1 is multiplied with the first term, we people are getting a -1. In the same fashion, it is multiplied with all these elements. Here we people are getting -1, -1, -1 and -1. In the same fashion, the second station is sending the bit 0 is. The bit 0 is represented by -1 here. Suppose if you multiply this D2 with a C2, on that case we people will get -1 plus 1 -1 plus 1. Node 3 is a silent here. Okay, and that silent can be represented by 0. If you multiply this scalar value, if you multiply this chipping sequence with a scalar value, we will get a 0 here. Okay, that is D3 into C3 is nothing but a 0 0 0 0 here. When it comes to station 4 is sending a 1 bit, that is represented by the positive value here, that is a 1. If you multiply this 1 with a C4, we will get a +1 -1 -1 +1. Okay, and the sum of all these term, that is a present over this link. The first term of all these terms, that is a D1 into C1, D2 into C2, D3 into C3, D4 into C4. That information is present over this channel here. That is, suppose if you add the first term of all these elements, -1 -1 +1, on that case we people will receive a result as a -1. That is the first term here. Suppose if you add all these second term elements, -1 +1, we will get a 0, 0 plus -1, we will receive a -1 here. That is a second term that is a present over this channel. The next one, the third bit, -1 -1 we will receive a minus 2 plus minus 1, we receive a minus 3 here, that is present here. The next one, fourth element, minus 1 plus 1 plus 1 here. Here we people will receive the positive value as a 1 here. This particular data is present over the channel. Consider this station 4 is receiving the data that is sent by station 1 here. Now the station 4 should and must multiply this particular data, the data that is present over this channel, common channel, by the chipping sequence of a node 1. What sequence we have when it comes to node 1? That is a plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. If you multiply these two terms, that is the chipping sequence is multiplied with this data element. On that case, we will receive the destination, receive the data that is sent by the station 1 here. Okay. For example, this one is multiplied with the first element. Here we will receive minus 1. The second term, that is multiplied by the second term. Here we will receive minus 1. The third one, that is a third element of a chipping sequence C1, is multiplied with the data element. That is a third element that is present over the channel is 1 into minus 3. We will receive minus 3. The next, the fourth element is multiplied with the fourth element. 1 is multiplied with 1. That is a 1. Here we people will receive the data elements as a minus 1, minus 1, minus 3 and plus 1. If you add all these terms, what we people are receiving here, that is a minus 4. Suppose if I divide this minus 4 if I divide this minus 4 by the number of nodes present in the topology, on that case we will receive minus 1 here. That is minus 4 divided by 4, we will receive a minus 1, and that minus 1 is nothing but a bit 0 here. When it comes to representing that signal levels, we people are just using a simple a line coding scheme here, that is a NRZL here. The bit 0, the station 1 we have a chipping sequence, that is, for example, minus 1, minus 1, minus 1 and a minus 1. Okay. Here we people are using the a negative voltage here. Okay. The next one, the chipping sequence has a values, that is minus 1 plus 1 minus 1 plus 1. Okay, that can be represented in this time domain. The negative voltage represents the minus 1. The positive voltage represents the plus 1. In the same fashion, we represent the data elements here. Okay, the data that is on a channel. Okay, if you look at the data that is present at this particular stage, that is a minus 1, minus 1, minus 3 and plus 1. The minus 1 represents the first bit. We people use a negative voltage to represent the second term, that is a minus 1. We people use a minus 3 voltage to represent a minus 3 here, and a plus 1 to represent the last element, that is a 1 here. That is what the data that is present over the channel here. This particular figure shows a decoding of a composite signal for one in a CDM. This is the data that is present over the channel. Okay, a station 2's code we can represent here, that is a +1 positive voltage, -1 a negative voltage, +1 positive voltage. Then fourth element is represented by a negative voltage here. We people, once you multiply this term, that is inner product, we people will receive this particular term. And if you add all these terms, on that case we people will receive a -4 here. Okay, suppose and here we people are trying to extract the data that is sent by the station 1 here. The result we people will get a 4, that is a -4. If you multiply this, suppose if you divide this particular term by a 4, on that case we will receive a -1, and this -1 is nothing but a bit 0 here. When it comes to designing these chipping sequences, that is how we generate these chipping sequence, we people are using this wash table. Okay, and we have a certain rules when it comes to generating this wash table. We have two basic rules. W1 should and must be a positive one, and here we people are computing wash codes for a 2n here. Okay, that 2n can be computed by using this particular expression, that is a wn, 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 and the complement of this wn. And if you want to compute a chipping sequence for 4 nodes, that is 2n's here. Okay, we are generating this chipping sequence for 2n nodes here. Okay, suppose if you want to generate chipping sequence for 4 nodes, on that case this is a first W2 information, that is a +1 +1 +1 -1. The next one Wn, that is a W2 information. The next one the Wn information. The fourth one the complement of it, that is +1 is a inverted here, -1, +1 is inverted, that is a -1. This +1 is inverted, -1. This -1 is inverted, it becomes the +1. And here we people are assigning this chipping sequence. This first row is assigned to a one node, the second row is assigned to another node. Sorry, excuse me. The third row is assigned to a third node, and a fourth row information, that is the chipping sequence, is assigned to another node here. Okay. If you want to generate the chipping sequence for 8 nodes, on that case we need to use this particular values here, that is a Wn, 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 a complement of a Wn here. In that fashion we people design chipping sequences here. The number of sequences in a wash table needs to be 2 to the power m here. Okay, where n is the number of nodes. Find the chips for a network with a 2 station and a 4 station. We can use the first rows of a W2 as shown in the this particular figure. This one. This is a basic rule we have, that is the W1 should and must be a +1. We people compute chipping sequence for a 2n here by using this method, that is a wn, 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 a complement of a wn here. Here we people are computing a w2 here, that is a +1 +1 +1, and complement of a w1 is nothing but a -1, and I can assign these codes for these two nodes. That is this is a first chipping sequence that is assigned for a one node, the second chipping sequence that is assigned for the second node here. A 4 node station, we use the same mechanism here. I can use this scenario. The first row information, all these codes +1 +1 +1 +1, that is assigned for one node. The second row is assigned for a station 2. The third row is assigned for a station 3, and the fourth row is assigned for a station 4 here. What is the number of sequences if we have a 90 station in our network? The number of a sequence needs to be 2 to the power m here. Suppose if you select m value as a 7, on that case you will get a 128 value. Out of this 128, you can easily use the 90 chipping sequence. Those can be assigned for those 90 nodes here. Okay. In the next session, we will go through the fifth module. Okay, thank you.